Round boy.
Hey guys, welcome back to the 5 Rounds podcast show where you got your 5 rounds, 5 topics, and 5 opinions. You've made it to round 2. Our next topic for round 2 is sexual abuse in the workplace. Now, as this show is male dominated, we wanted to get a female opinion as well, so she can back the female. So what I want the females watching the show right now is to hit like, so you can back the female coming in. If you don't hit the like button, she ain't coming out. Basically. So we've got Fred. How you doing, Fred?
Well, Guan, good.
Feeling
good.
Good man. We've got Patrick. Yeah, man. We've got Ovi Too Nice.
Twice as nice with some ice on top.
Oh,
And Dark and Lovely. We've got Mpatso. Come on. All right. So the topic today is sexual abuse in the workplace. We chose to focus on sexual abuse in the workplace because I think this is one of the places that it's not really spoken about. It's very they keep it on a hush hush. We hear about sexual harassment elsewhere. You hear about child molestation, you hear about rape, you hear about all these things, but sexual abuse in the workplace is sort of frowned upon. Females. Countless stories I've heard of females who have been in a position where their employer has, for example, taken their pants off in front of them and gone, "Listen, this is what's going down, or you lose your job." And if the female speaks out, for example, she gets in a certain position. She's in a very weird position where her workmates might think, no, she's actually sleeping her way to get to the top. Yet it's the manager who has imposed that, right? And the manager, because the manager's in a powerful position, he can sort of bat away all these accusations because they fall at his desk anyway. So this is why I wanted to talk about this. I wanted to enlighten this. So before we get into it, I wanted to introduce our new guest. Our new guest is Sam. She's a regular working Joe like all of us, but obviously repping for the female side. So we'd like to welcome Sam into the show. 2 minutes.
all right. Welcome, Sam.
Oh my gosh. All right. While Sam is trying to come on, the show must go on. Right. I'm going to ask for Ganizani's opinion, right? Or Patrick's opinion, sorry. What are your thoughts on sexual abuse in the workplace? Do you feel that the right laws are in place? What I want to do is sort of I don't want to focus on the Western world, because I think in the Western world, there's Me Too movements, there's all these things. But then when you go on a microscopic view, for example, in Africa, what things are in place to support these women? Do you think it's adequate enough to support these women? And what's your take on sexual abuse in the workplace?
Wait, are you just concentrating on women, or are you just concentrating on all the sexes?
All the sexes, whatever you feel, whatever you feel applies to you.
Cool, man, because this is 2021. Everybody gets the views, the work,
Welcome back, Sam.
Welcome back. I see she's back now.
Yeah, we're good there.
Good.
All right.
Look, man, it's a very difficult topic, and it's a topic that I think a lot of people should obviously talk about it. So we're talking about it right now. If you talk about workplaces, you've seen like for me, if you talk about especially Africa, like Malawi, where I'm from, I'm going to give an example of Malawi because that's where I have seen a lot of this happen, and a lot of people will say, "Oh no, it was never the boss's fault; it was her fault. Why was she wearing a miniskirt as a secretary? Why was she wearing something revealing her
Leverage.
I came. Thank you, Fred. I was about to use the wrong word here, but you know what I mean. Like in places like Malawi and Africa, they mostly blame whoever is the victim, and we don't have a lot of rules that are put in place. While if you come to other places like here in Ireland, we have a lot of rules that are out there. We've got a handbook that we hand over to everybody for you to read, and you educate yourself, and you have to sign off on that. So you will read that, say that, look, this is how we behave at work. These are things that you must do. These are things you mustn't do. And when I was working, they used to not encourage people to get into relationships, so that sometimes when these relationships break up, somebody can accuse you of sexual abuse. But I have seen it a lot, as I said, in Malawi, and majority of the time, the victim always gets blamed. The victim is the one who gets fired, and whoever was the one doing the sexual abusing ends up, believe it or not, maybe even getting a promotion and still keeping their job, and them employing another girl and intimidating that girl, saying, "Look, the last girl was here, and I asked her for a few things, and she didn't play ball. If you don't play ball, you will follow her." So I think those are the things that maybe we have to educate countries like in Africa, but especially in my country, Malawi, which I think weeks ago I was hearing that this sexual abuse thing is getting out of hand. So that's all I can say. I have not much about it because myself, I've never been a victim of sexual abuse, but I have seen it. As I said, I've seen it in Malawi, and it's nothing to be happy about. That's all I can say.
Okay.
So
Now that Sam is back with us, I wanted to ask you this question, right? What we wanted to do is focus on Africa because obviously in the Western world, you've got Me Too movements, you've got Twitter, you've got social media, you've got these platforms and support systems in the West that support women that are victimized in these sort of situations. In Africa, do you think there are things in place that are enough to support women to advocate for themselves or to come out and say, look, I've been abused. I need help. This person wronged me. Do you feel the system is there and is sufficient to help women in need?
In Africa, short answer is no. And I'm gonna give the perspective. So, for those of you who don't know, I'm from the Ivory Coast originally, so I guess I have that more French-speaking Africa perspective. And I'm lucky enough that the Ivory Coast is one of these countries that is trying at least a little bit to do something about it. But at the moment, for example, I know that we had a version of the Me Too movement last year, and it went really, it went viral, but the outcome of it was nothing. And we have at the moment stories of people. Social media has been a really good help for women to make their voices heard and stuff, but there is no police support or like no support from the government really to take anything further than just someone complaining. And I think, yes, there's an issue of education, but again, and I'm again speaking from the perspective of an Ivorian, it's very political. It's very much, these are the kind of people who are in power. If they, for example, put the feminist cause forward, or the issues that touch women forward, it's going to become them losing some followers or some people who are voting for them, even though the voting is another whole different story. And there's also the fact that being advocating for female issues is still seen as a symbol of weakness for some reason. It doesn't make sense to me, but some women will defend themselves when you call them feminist or when they are trying to advocate for female causes. And so I think there's already this issue of getting people to understand why it's important. And in the case of sexual abuse, some people will put that down to ambition. And I'm lucky enough to never have experienced sexual abuse. I've never worked in Africa, to be fair, but I've never experienced sexual abuse, and I don't think my ambition for the capitalist world would push me to feel under pressure to accept. But if I'm to accept any kind of sexual favor, to have a promotion or something, but it's a big thing and people don't hide it anymore. It's become part of the culture. And so I'm not too sure what it is that we can do to fix it. There are people who are starting to speak up, and NGOs coming off the ground and trying to pick up the issues and do something about it. But so far, there's no actual support that would mean there would be actual change, unfortunately. And that's what I've been seeing across other countries in Africa. But again, West African kind of perspective.
That's a good point. Thank you very much. So, don't you guys think, right? Okay, we do have this issue, right? 100%, granted. But don't you think that there are also females out there that are taking advantage of this system and looking at it and thinking, hey, I can make something out of this. I can make a fake claim just to get myself where I need to be. I can, for example, to get back at someone, I can say, hey, you did ABC to me, so that I can get you out of that job because I don't like you as a person.
True.
So
True.
is it both ways? Is it that maybe women are not being harassed, they're actually doing the harassing? Let's hear what you think, Paso.
Well, realistically, when you talk about sexual assault and sexual harassment in a way, like it's really a different, like it's a difficult topic just to put it up front because you're not the victim, and the victim's reaction towards you is you have so many questions to just stand there and try to understand because when you kind of try to understand the situation is whereby if a person is victim of like sexual assault or sexual harassment, it's where they try to figure out like who do I tell, and this also comes down to their background of whereby were they really raised up with confidence whereby if they're really in a problem they can go forward to someone and tell the person I'm a victim of this kind of situation. In Africa, when you're looking at it, there's been so many cases, and the cases could be rape, and rape cases are rarely reported to the police because the police don't take it forward. The investigations are just really just like it's just a scratch on the surface, and with less contact tracing and all that stuff like back home, there is just like nothing to look into because one person could be a victim and they could go through to the police closest to them and they won't get anything out of it because the police are like, don't you give us any problems because we've never solved any problem like that before. And even if there's like advocate for certain situations, there is nothing that could actually solve that problem. So when you talk about women taking like if it would be a woman taking advantage of this situation or a man taking advantage of this situation and saying, oh, I'm going to use this to leverage me to get to that position. Let's say you are looking forward to being a manager and your manager is A, could be female, B could be male, and A, you're the male trying to get that position or you're the female trying to get that position. It's a very tough situation to do because then one, how do you tell that this is a sexual harassment situation where people don't really record their first encounter, like if they're really in that situation they don't record their first situation because then they go brushing it off, they go like, oh, this is not really it, because some people just don't come up to be raised and be educated to say this is what sexual harassment is, because most people think sexual harassment is sexual, like it's sex in a sense, because sexual harassment is simply just that really intimidating level of you could be male intimidating a female or you could be the female intimidating a male, and you could use your powers to actually access to whatever the person's weaknesses are, and you could actually want to get those areas. So in this sense, like I feel like I can't really put the right answer to say how people do it. It is a manipulative kind of situation. So most people could use it to get whatever they want, and most people can't use it. And when someone else uses that sexual harassment kind of approach and say they report, the person that acted in that situation, um, it takes a really huge factor of the due restriction in that area to say how do they handle these cases in a way, and when they handle those cases, how far does it go? You report to your HR, you report to your manager. What if the HR is protecting the company? What if the manager is protecting the company? What if the police are protecting certain people in power? So that situation is a very, very tough debate to cook up and try to explain in a way. Yeah. So yeah, that's my part at the very most.
All right. So, Fred, right? Let me ask you a question. What makes us so different from the Western world, who the women there have decided, you know what, enough is enough. Me Too movement, let's get it going. Companies are gonna, if it doesn't matter if one person in that company committed the problem, if they go as far as, if you guys do not uproot that person, the company is cancelled. Yeah. Why isn't that happening in Africa?
Well,
Why we got solutions like that? Basically, that's my question.
I would say for to agree with Sam at the beginning, as in Africa itself, we don't have the resources, like for example, Twitter or Facebook to expose someone in the act. Because in Europe, you always have a camera at every corner, so it's easy to pile up that evidence to come in front of the court of law to actually say like, this is the evidence. So he's been doing this for a long time. In Africa, and we also have this issue with culture as well. Like women are supposed to be afraid of men in some sense like that. So we have grown up with that sense like, oh, men are always sometimes right and stuff. So women are supposed to be below men and some stuff, even if in a workplace. For a woman to become a manager is because maybe she's the daughter of the owner of the company or something like that. So it's very hard for a woman to be on the top. And if for her to go to the top, she has to obviously be explored. A lot of men will be like, oh, if you want this, do this for me. So it's a matter of trying to get those connections. And a lot of women don't have that connection unless it's a family type of business. So in Europe here, thankfully, they're more developed. Like we said, Twitter and all these social media outlets are actually helping us out. Whether in Africa we don't make use of these outlets to our advantage, because it's basically the victims. It's you against the victim against whoever is being accused. You know what I mean? So if the guy getting accused says no, you don't have any evidence. Well, when did I do this? So it's your word against theirs. So if you go in the court of law, and it also, as we know about Africa, it's a corrupt country. You know what I mean? Everywhere is corrupt. You have few money, you bribe the cops easily. They'll probably just brush it aside. And that's the thing. That's why a lot of women don't actually come out and say like, okay, because they know this is just going to hit a dead end. So it's something that we already know the outcome. And unfortunately enough, there's a lot of women out there who are coming from Europe with this knowledge. Like, I know I have to do this. So they have access to put this out there and everything. So they're fighting for it, which I give them a round of applause for that as well.
Just to hold you there, Fred. I think Sam had something to say. I could see her.
Go on there.
Yeah.
She's been aching. She's like,
yeah. Go on there.
I didn't know.
Jump in.
I just wanted to add on though. I completely agree with you about the corruption and the lack of resources. But I think something that we have in Africa and that I think Europe has less of is a shame culture. Whoever the victim will be shamed. Their family will be shamed. If it's a big person and you try to apply cancel culture in Africa, it won't work if the person has money. If the person has no money yet, their life is over, and maybe that's also an issue because some people are like, yeah, you've been abused, but you're still there. Let's not just drag this person's name, their family name, and make it a whole thing about bringing shame to people, to the victim, to anyone else. And a lot of the time, especially with things around sex and intimacy and all those things, I think a lot of us are taught to be ashamed of it, even when it happens in a normal, healthy kind of environment. Now, if you add to it the trauma aspect of the thing, the fact that it's already difficult for even women in Europe to talk about it out there without thinking about what people are going to say. The fact that you go somewhere and you tell that you've been sexually abused by your boss, for example, some people are going to focus on the fact that you had a sexual relation with someone
people look at you differently as well.
The trauma side of it.
That's true.
I think that's a big issue that people don't have to deal with in the Western world.
That's true. And we also have this thing of a lot of, most people that are in a good job, it took them a lot of work to go through all these channels to reach that level, which they don't want to lose that position over something that's horrific as this, because they're scared. Like, what if I come up with this, I might lose my job and I won't be able to get back to that same position, as in all their hard work will just go down the drain, you know what I mean? So it's also fear as well. I'll just put it in there as well. The fear of losing, especially what if I lose this and then I'm the one looking after my family, taking all the bills and stuff. So if I lose this job, that means I won't be able to provide for my family. So there's a lot of issue that comes into it. But I would say sexual harassment, to be honest, I've never actually been there myself. I've never actually seen it happen, to be honest. I would see two people flirting, but I wouldn't differentiate whether it's a harassment or not. But, sometimes people will just be, they'll be flirting. Well, the other person is just flirting just to be nice. And the other one flirting who's serious, like, oh, I want you. And the other one just like, oh, no, it's okay. We're just being friends. There's a whole lot of body language into it as well. So it's basically you against the person that you actually bringing out there, like, okay, you sexually harassed me and everything. So it comes up to the court to judge, I guess.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah. Sure.
So, can I say something before, Peter? Sorry, can I just say something?
Okay.
I've been thinking. And another thing, just on the fear, I've also noticed this, and I'm pretty sure you guys can agree with me. This is on the guys getting sexually abused, and I think it went with the same thing with Terry Crews. Guys also, let's say if this happens to us in Africa, Africa. If that happened to me and I came to most of my boys, they'll be like, dude, look at how big you are, and you were saying that woman was sexually abusing you. Nah, get out of here. You know what I mean? Those are the things that also, on a guy's perspective, I'm also scared. Like all of us here, I don't know, I'm not trying to say we have been, but believe it or
They
not,
say you're weak.
yeah, it actually says that actually guys get more sexually abused, but they keep it in because not more than women, but they get it more, even this it might be the same level a bit, but they do it, but they keep it down because they're like, oh, you know what? When I come out and I tell people, oh, I was sexually abused by my boss, they'll be like, are you serious? Or even if the boss is a woman or a man, but that's how it is. Also, it also goes the same way that it's a bit of fear, and everybody doesn't want to be judged. But especially for Africans, it's also pride because a lot of African men too much pride, and they're like, I cannot come out and say I'm getting sexually abused. The same as women, they're always taught to be submissive since they're young. They're told, oh, you have to clean, you have to cook. Why the boys go outside and play football? So it's put in you, it's taught in you, it's programmed in you. So by the time you come to work, you're like, oh, I can't lose my job. I can't say this against my boss. Oh, I'm so scared of him. So that's all I just wanted to say.
Sweet. So, Ovi.
Can I
Sorry,
answer?
Peter.
Sure. Okay. So, Ovi's getting jumped on.
Go on.
I just wanted to add on to what Patrick just said, because I think it's something very true about male sexual harassment and sexual abuse. I think even female sometimes. I think also in Africa there's this sense of like someone showing interest in you is a privilege, especially with a man. If a man is harassed by his female boss, people are gonna be like, "Oh, come on, you have a woman who like just wants you. How do you see that as sexual harassment?" And I think that's something that also needs to change. The fact that attention should be seen as a privilege. Fred was talking about friendly flirting and all that. Sometimes I don't want to flirt with people. And it should be okay that I don't want to flirt with you and I feel uncomfortable flirting with you. It shouldn't be seen as something like, oh, look, it's fine that he's flirting with you because someone's showing you attention. And I think that's something that we kind of tend to forget a little bit too often, especially in African cultures. So, yeah, sorry, I'll stop now.
Wow. That's really good.
Sweet. Ovi,
Yeah.
let's go.
My only point of view about it, why it happens, I think the reason it happens more in Africa than it is here in Europe. It does happen here in Europe, but it's handled off, it's taken care of, and there's a difference that is made. I'd say 80% of the time when it happens, if you can walk into a place and you complain about it, you're gonna get help straight away. But I think in Africa, it's the problem that from birth, as Patrick said, from birth, we kind of grew up with a very lame culture of teaching that it grows up and eventually graduates into that sexual abuse in work, in schools, whatsoever. Because, for example, I'll give you an example. Here in Europe, guys, if you are with your girlfriend, it's your own house, you fight and you argue. That's domestic abuse, basically. Let's say put it domestic. When help comes, let's say if the police or anybody comes, no matter what the situation is, they're gonna boot you as a guy out of the house. Yeah, they'll tell you, you know what, you have to leave the house. You know, you can talk about this tomorrow. You right to take out the man and leave the woman. You know, despite whatsoever.
Yeah, there is a protection.
It's because that's how the system is made, and the system is made that way, and it's worked. And because of that, there's a bit of fear of the guy to say, no, I can't do that. But in Africa, and this is not really a lie, I know because I've seen this lots of time. You tell me, out of, let's say, 3 out of 5 women that have been abused domestically before, right? Domestically, or even in any kind of way, I can guarantee you a woman that walks into a police station and report and say, oh, my husband has been abusing me at home. This is the first reaction that the police do. Well, we are not married in your couple. So they ring the husband, they come here and take a woman and sort it out, you know? That's the first thing that we're gonna do. It's rare you're gonna find a woman who's been abused from domestic, and he goes and complains to the police, and the police will come in and jump in and say, "Oh, you man, you're abusing a woman." No, it's you guys, can you talk about your thing here? It's your marriage. So because of that mindset, it still drives all the way to wherever you go. Wherever you go, every man will feel like it's right to do it, and say, "Yeah, because I can do it anyway, and I'll get away with it." You know. With that said, there's also some situations where if a woman starts the whole thing and because it's gone wrong, then the trend will say I've been sexually abused, and it has happened. It has happened. We know this. There's women out there who go on a company, and you'd be surprised that last week she was a secretary. How did she turn into HR manager this month? But she knows
So most of them are taking advantage of the whole thing.
Excuse me, I'm not laughing about that. It's just the climbing of the hierarchy. The ladder is just
you know what I mean?
It's a ridiculous process.
There are some women out there who are using it because they know that right now, this is the boss. So what do I do if I need a promotion? I'm gonna confuse this boss. There's no way no more woman will go in there and then you know yourself what you can do. Yeah, that thing. Even the boss, when he sees he came, he's a human being. Let's hope he's a human being. And this woman should know what she's doing. But if this backfires in a certain kind of way, she can come back and say that this man is sexually abusing me.
But Avita, there is another approach as well where where in this time and age women are really excelling at a very high rate where women are getting smarter, they're pushing up the ladder and everything. And now at this situation whereby women are focused on their career, they get to that high level, and then boom, she's the CEO of a company and she's young, old, whatever age, and she is single, right? So there is that really vulnerability factor whereby she really wants to get with someone, but she's not sure, So there is those type of men that would actually take advantage of that resource. Like, there's that Chinese whisper in the office where they go about to say, oh, she's got money, she is single, and she is looking for someone. And every man will go chasing for her, and she will be harassed in every single way that would be imaginable because everyone wants to secure the package. It is never discussed whereby people say a man wants to secure the package. But there is a true story whereby there is also the other factor whereby other men want to secure the package. And when they see a CEO lady right there and she is single, they want to go for her because she is vulnerable in some certain way. So there is those factors as well. So just saying.
Hi,
I know it's higher. I think it's higher on women than it is higher on men, in all fairness, because in most recent other countries, it's really the other way around. But as well as I said, like there's some women there that are that bad. They know what they're doing. They know this is the CEO of the company. He's a married man. He really doesn't want to do it. But at some point, a human being is a human being.
Yeah.
There's so much there's so much he's gonna resist, and then at some point he's gonna say, no. Because you know what I mean? In general, it happens. I mean, you've seen people who in companies have done that mistake, and then once they've done that mistake, it comes
Yeah.
out, oh, he abused me, he used me for his position. It's happened. I'm not saying it happens all the time. There are really people out there who are being abused, and in some scenarios, it's also a woman driving on this man, driving on. And this, I know people who've tried to resist people and end up making a mistake because they just couldn't stop, hold it anymore. Say, okay, look, I'm trying, and I've been saying no, and maybe this will just suit the person. And once that is done, then there's a big problem. Oh, he abused me. But if you can go back and you can see that, oh yeah, this woman was the one pushing this guy to some extent that. I think he just fell off the wagon and say, "Oh, let me just go on," you know.
Yeah.
And just to add in there, this thing as well, when abuse, yes, me, I'm for it as well, but I don't understand the people that have been abused for years and then come out after like 30 years. Yes, yes, it's a horrible experience and stuff, but I feel like if something is happening, you don't like it on the spot, come out of it now. Don't wait until 20 years, 30 years, and then start bringing, when I was a secretary, this guy used to do me like this. Some people are taking advantage for the Bill Cosby, whatever happened with the Bill Cosby. This man is old. He's basically old, and even if he goes to jail, it doesn't make sense because he's old, man. And then you come out until 40 years later to say you abuse.
See, that's the thing where we're talking about. The Me Too movement wasn't there than before. Women didn't really get much support from they weren't empowered in this. These generations growing up, and it's only come now whereby the media is actually being the voice for the women, because I see something today and I see, she's been abused and this and that. I share it and then someone else reads it. They share the same, passion. They share the same emotions as me. And then we all move in one, and then we do something different. And then we say, you know what, stop this. And then, this has to discontinue and stuff like that. In a sense whereby these women are coming out now, it's very sad that, you can't really tell someone to say, you would have had a track record of this. You would have gone to the hospital to actually, get the test, and then, have this on record. You would have done this, go to the police and report this. So all that would have been something material to actually present to the courts to say, she actually went for a test and it was proven that, with the swabs and everything was there. She actually, went to the police and this was there. She actually talked to the HR and they had this discussion. She actually went to, the manager as well. So all these things, like all that material wasn't really constructed for the people back then. Now it is. Now you can actually step in and record all this. So it's something new.
Yeah, that's true. Very good point there. What I wanted to do is just highlight a few things that I think need to be brought to people's attention when it comes to sexual harassment. And sort of my take on it. It's going to be a quick one. So basically, I'm going to focus on the place that I grew up in, the place that I hear these stories, and that's Malawi. So I grew up in Malawi. I was born in Malawi. Obviously, I'm based in the UK now. I want to focus in that place because I sort of look at what's going on in the Western world, and I want to try and see how we can apply a solution in a place like that. According to the Gender Equality Act, Section 6, Gender Equality Act, April 2013, the sanctions for sexual harassment are 1 million Malay kwacha, which is the equivalent, a fine of 1 million Malay kwacha. Whoever commits this crime,
That's so low.
1 million Malay kwacha, which is equivalent to $1,270 or £920, right? And 5 years imprisonment. That is the punishment for somebody who ruins somebody's career. Pretty much ruin somebody's life as well. Pretty much, defaces someone. 5 years, 1 million. So you telling me that people in these high places, is that going to stop somebody of power? I don't think so.
That is a change.
In 2020, there were 478 cases reported by the police to the UN that were related to sexual violence. So that's children, women, stuff like that. 478. We don't, it's not just 478 women in Malawi. There's more than that.
More than that, it's millions. Yeah.
Over 50% of women. So, for example, one in the African statistics, 1 in 3 women get sexually harassed, right, at some point in their life, and only 50% of them report it, right? Looking at this, I question what for example, what the Malawian government is doing about it to protect our sisters, mothers, wives, daughters, from these dangers. Because for me, I feel like the law, when I quoted that Gender Equality Act, it's quite damning to know that all you need to do if you harass somebody or rape somebody, whatever it is. I think rape is a little bit more, but if you harass somebody at work, you only have to pay a million kwacha and spend 5 years in jail, and you're back into the system. You're back into doing what you did, right?
Yeah,
is that enough for someone to change? I don't think so, right?
Can I say something there on Tali?
Sure.
Sorry there for cutting you off.
Yeah.
But look, I get where you're coming from, and I can see your passion in this, and everybody right here on this chat, I'm pretty sure we're all passionate because these are mothers, sisters. But I think giving them that price, I know that we can't put a price on this, and 5 years, look, 5 years is a joke. It's a joke, 5 years. But I think let's take this as the first step. Let's say that. Years ago, we could have never said this would have never come on here and say, oh, yeah, now you have to pay 1 million and you have to take 5 years. So I think, look, I get where you're coming from. I think they could have given them more time. They could have said, you know what, you don't even have to pay. You go straight and it's life. You know what I mean? It's life to just cut it off. But I think this is a step. We can say whatever movements are there in Africa, them saying, look, you can pay 1 million and go there for 5 years. Maybe for me, I'm just saying, let's take it as a step. Because years ago, they could have just laughed at that. Years ago, they could have found a way to pay the government and pull a few strings, and this won't happen. So I think I'm just taking that as a step. At least it's a positive step. That's all I can say. That's all I just wanted to say.
I totally understand what you're saying. Sorry to cut you off there. I totally understand what you're saying. My first counter would be that this act was in April 2013. I don't have a figure of how many things have happened between that point and now. Are you telling me that within these 7 years, nobody has thought, actually, this is not enough. We need to help these people. In November 2019, there was a march by journalists in Malawi who had enough of sexual abuse in Malawi because they reported their cases, but not enough was done to protect these females. Okay, they understand the law is there to prevent people from doing it, or sort of prevent them from doing it. But they're saying, look, what support systems have these people got once they've reported that? Nothing. Okay. I'm not going to say there's nothing because, again, the minister of gender also said, look, there's different support systems. For example, the Malawian Women Lawyers Association, they take on women sexual abuse cases for free. All right. So I'm not only here to talk about what's wrong, I'm also going to talk about what's happening. So there's Malawi women lawyers. All right. They take on women's cases and they deal with them for free, pro bono. So if you have sexual harassment at work in Malawi, if you've ever felt that way, Malawi women lawyers, they will sort out your case and they will get to the bottom of it. How it works, no idea, but that is there. That support system is there. But I feel there is more that needs to be done. The churches need to get involved. The NGOs need to get involved. I think families need to talk about this a little bit more. It's not just the fact that somebody's penetrated you. It's a bit more than that. How are you feeling about that situation? How are you going to move on from that situation? These are things that we need to start thinking about. That's what I think. So to close it off, if anyone else has something to add, please add it on.
And we're going to talk about why people cheat in relationships.
Is this peer pressure? Oh, cheating is the new cool thing. Oh, I need to have a side piece. Some people do it for that reason. Get in the trend. I need to have a side piece so I can sort of get by in life. Yeah.
There are men that coming out from their, situation, and they're seeing other men because they never exploited that in their time, right? So they get the new platforms coming up, and they're like, you know what, I'm gonna try out Grinder, I'm gonna try out Tinder, and I'm gonna see if which party I'm actually interested in.
I think there's this thing about again, as I said, about communication, and there's also the thing about how people define their relationship. And I think there's a big issue around I think Patrick mentioned it has someone who, well, he mentioned someone wanting to keep their girl and having their side person, because the word side piece is very meaty. I don't like it.